Ghibli's first official release, Laputa Castle in the Sky, is a rich tapestry of thematic and aesthetic elements that make it a seminal yet still imperfect work in the realm of Japanese animation. Now, having never seen a Ghibli film before, I didn't really know what to expect. I'd obviously heard a multitude of praises from Miyazaki floating around the film industry, and I was aware of the distinct style that Studio Ghibli films possess, but beyond those two aspects, I really am coming in blind to the world of Ghibli. This perspective allows me to experience the film without the burden of expectations. My introduction to Miyazaki's work through Laputa Castle in the Sky quickly revealed why his films are celebrated globally. The visual storytelling, character depth, and thematic complexity are immediately striking. There's a palpable sense of adventure that transcends the typical boundaries of animated films, weaving together elements of folklore, technology, and ecology in a way that is both novel and deeply resonant. As the film unfolded, I found myself engrossed not just by the plot, but by the meticulous details of the world that Miyazaki created. A world where every frame speaks volumes about the creator's vision and the cultural narratives he seeks to explore. This initial viewing has not only introduced me to the enchanting style of Ghibli, but has also sparked a curiosity to delve deeper into its library and understand the full scope of its influence on cinema and animation. One thing I was curious about was the strange lack of dialogue in this film, especially during the first act. There are huge portions of this movie where literal dialogue is few and far between, replaced with a fitting score or simply silence alongside visuals, and sometimes this works really well. Sheeta, the protagonist of the film, doesn't even have her first line until 14 minutes into it.
Thank you very much for saving me. Oh, I'm sorry, my name's Sheeta.
And it's not like that's because she doesn't appear. In fact, she does quite a lot. From bottling Muska to climbing out the window and scaling across the spaceship, to literally falling through the clouds and landing miles below, all without one word of dialogue. Whether or not this was intentional, the choice to limit speech emphasizes the strength in visual storytelling. In Laputa, the animation itself carries the narrative forward. The landscapes, character expressions, and intricate details of the flying machines communicate more than dialogue ever could. This approach allows the audience to be drawn into the world of the film more directly, experiencing the mystery and wonder of the settings and scenarios as the characters do without verbal interruption. Huge significant sequences like the entire intro sequence, as well as Pazu seeing Sheeta floating down for the first time, are totally silent. Additionally, one of my favorite moments is when Pazu lets the birds out and plays his trumpet. These are all scenes that happen in the first 15 minutes of the film, and they all replace dialogue with music that builds a profound atmospheric depth. Music and environmental sounds such as the whistle of the wind or the hum of the machinery become prominent, enhancing the emotional resonance of each scene. Even later in the film, Joe Hisashi's iconic score conveys a sense of awe and adventure during the flying sequences. My favorite example being the escape against the first robot. And a haunting solitude in quieter, more introspective moments. This auditory experience complements the visual spectacle, making the fantastical elements feel tangible and the emotional stakes more visceral. Sheeta's initial silence specifically, however, is telling of her inner life. By withholding her voice, Miyazaki builds a sense of mystery around her, emphasizing her initial vulnerability and the significance of her eventual choices and actions. It invites reflection on the broader themes of the film, such as the nature of silence itself. In a world bustling with noise and chaos, the moments of silence in Laputa suggest a return to a more natural, untouched state. They echo the film's environmental messages and critiques of industrialization, where silence serves as a stark contrast to the destructive noises of machinery and human greed. It reflects Miyazaki's often expressed yearning for a simpler, more harmonious coexistence with the natural world. I think the way that characters are developed in this film is similarly brilliant in some ways, but underwhelming in others. Once again, the silent developments are probably when the film is at its best. When Pazu jumps off a building to demonstrate how the necklace works, there isn't even a hint of fear in him. It's a powerful, non-verbal demonstration of his character, and it's crucial for establishing the bravery and impulsive nature that we see throughout the film, fearlessly navigating airships and battling pirates. It also stands out as one of the first jokes in the film, which so far has been rather bleak and chaotic. We're more likely to remember the first moment of normality and peace, effectively imprinting Pazu's character into our minds without a single word. The same thing can be said for the iconic moment of him running from the army base, contemplating throwing the money he took to leave Sheeta, only to dejectively instinctively decide to keep it, and this comes directly before his confrontation with the pirates where his preconceptions on manhood are challenged. This emphasis on non-verbal communication extends into the action scenes as well. The first fight in Laputa is against a miner and the pirates, which follows much of the style and tone established by 1980s Japanese animation, which often embraced exaggerated expressions and actions, especially in scenes intended to be humorous or lighthearted. This style serves to engage the audience and differentiate emotional or thematic tones within the story. The comedic brawl is characteristic of this era. It utilizes slapstick humor and exaggerated physical comedy that was prevalent in many animations of the time, akin to scenes in other contemporary works like Dragon Ball. These elements make the fight entertaining rather than threatening, emphasizing fun and chaos over real danger. Not only does this somewhat foreshadow the pirates as soon-to-be comrades with our MCs, but also juxtaposes starkly with the dramatically risen stakes we soon witness. This is a film where we see hundreds of deaths. We witness large-scale areas go from untouched to ablaze and destroyed in a matter of seconds. We even see the two children main characters getting shot at. The dramatic tension is enhanced by the sudden progression from lightheartedness. I was consistently entranced by the playful vibe and charming visuals that came with this work. However, what alerted me that this was going to be more than just a fun watch was the first chase scene, which is a masterclass in pacing and non-expository character building. Miyazaki masterfully builds tension by gradually increasing the stakes and complexity of the scene. It starts with the pirates pursuing Pazu and Sheeta, a straightforward chase that the audience can easily grasp. However, the involvement of the army adds another layer of danger and urgency, complicating the situation and heightening the excitement. As soon as you think our characters have it figured out, a new threat approaches, and the cycle continues, adding unexpected twists that drive the narrative forward. As Pazu and Sheeta work together to evade their pursuers, their teamwork and resourcefulness are showcased, deepening the audience's understanding of their capabilities and strengthening their bond. The composition and camera work utilize sweeping panoramic shots that show the expansive scenery rushing by, which juxtaposes the character's small, vulnerable presence against the vast, unforgiving landscape. A part of me after my first watch viewed Pazu and Sheeta's abnormally quick bond as somewhat lazy to an extent. It's always been a pet peeve of mine when characters who have just met immediately become best pals, conveniently skipping the forms of bonding and development required in a more natural script. Upon my second watch, this didn't bug me nearly as much though. Pazu is portrayed as inherently kind, brave, and compassionate, qualities that drive him to help others without hesitation. This instinctive goodness and altruism resonate with the film's broader themes of trust, friendship, and selflessness. It also makes sense that given their mutual passion for Laputa, that they would want to stay together and go on this journey. And it's an approach that allows the film to maintain its brisk pace and focus more on the unfolding adventure and the exploration of its themes. That being said, however, I do wish that I'll get to see some more natural progressions in some of the future Ghibli films. From when Pazu and Sheeta meet Uncle Pom to the first robot attack is probably the weakest section of the film. It felt as though the writers were slightly stumped on finding a way to move the story along as naturally and as amazingly paced as they had thus far. Uncle Pom himself doesn't even feel like an actual character, and more just a vessel for a big exposition dump. I mean, that is literally the only purpose that he serves in this one long scene that he's in. He's not a character we hear of before or after this scene. The music isn't too great here either. I like what was done with the shading, but that's about it. The way information is shared is honestly pretty boring and slow-paced. Now, the film until this point had its slower moments, but the beauty of the visuals and the music almost make up for it. Here, the sudden change of pace from the frantic and busy chase to the slow, plodding, and more dull setting feels a bit jarring. I have very similar issues with the next section with Muska, where expository dialogue is abundant, and the silence isn't as clever either. Muska brings Sheeta to the fallen robot and once again boringly explains vital information to us boringly. There just isn't much to gawk at for this segment in the movie. I think a lot of it comes down to how underdeveloped the characters can be. Colonel Muska, the primary antagonist, while menacing, sometimes falls into the trope of being the classic evil guy. His motivations, power, and control are really standard for adventure films, and there isn't really any depth to him or his motivations. I think it would have been cool to give him more of a backstory, maybe some sort of history with Sheeta's family, because as it stands, the lack of a nuanced character development can make his eventual downfall feel inevitable and less impactful. One thing that did catch me off guard and raise my eyebrows in a concerning way was the pirate's infatuation with Sheeta as well. It definitely was not intentionally supposed to come across the way that it sometimes does, and it helps that the pirates just kind of exist to be aloof bits of comic relief, so you don't take it too seriously, but nonetheless, it's just an aspect of the film that didn't age too well. The pirates aren't very interesting characters either, but if they were, it would have made this part of their personality a bit more creepy. And Dotha is actually pretty great, so their whole shtick isn't too bad, I suppose. Since I'm already talking about complaints points, I might as well mention how predictable the story feels. The film follows a relatively traditional adventure storyline, with young protagonists discovering their heritage, facing off against a clearly defined villain, and overcoming obstacles through bravery and moral righteousness. While this structure has its charms and appeals, especially for younger audiences, it can definitely come across as formulaic to an extent. That being said, I think the ending was pulled off very well and broke some of these conventions, because it demonstrates a level of thematic bravery that companies like Disney have never even come close to. During both the emotional and thematic climax, Pazu and Cheetah make the decision to use the most destructive spell at their disposal, killing themselves in the process. It's a testament to their determination to prevent Laputa's technology from falling into the wrong hands, even at the cost of their own lives. This moment of mutual understanding, and once again silent agreement between them, is charged with emotional intensity. The scene beautifully captures their brief moment of vulnerability when they allow themselves to grieve for everything they're about to lose. It's not just about their life, it's about the loss of innocence, the end of their journey, and the potential destruction of the wonders they've come to love. Their decision is portrayed with a solemnity that respects the weight of their choice, which is a stark contrast to the often sanitized portrayals of danger in much of children's media. Whilst Disney often incorporates life and death stakes, their treatment tends to ensure that the resolution avoids direct confrontation with death. For example, in The Incredibles, the danger is explicit. Elastigirl's stern warning to her children underlines the lethal risks that they face.
They won't exercise restraint because you're children. They will kill you.
Yet the narrative structure and tone assure the audience of the character's survival. Miyazaki's approach in Laputa, on the other hand, doesn't shy away from the very real possibility of the characters' deaths, which they face with a poignant resignation that is rare in films aimed at a similar demographic.
Dolan and the boys are free, don't worry about them.
Many viewers might not realize the true gravity of what was meant to be a final act of self-sacrifice, and I think this stems from the inherent optimism in storytelling aimed at younger audiences, where such ultimate sacrifices are rarely followed through. The audience expects and receives a miraculous salvation in the form of the tree roots catching them. This resolution might lead some to retrospectively view the decision as less final than it was intended, not recognizing the full bravery or despair of the characters in that moment. And to be clear, I don't blame anyone for this. The moment would have been far more impactful if the spell went as they planned, and it is disappointing that they choose to conform to the age-old fake-out cliche that permeates children's media. The stakes are set high, and whilst they're followed through more so than most movies of a similar vein, they aren't quite committed to as much as I personally would have liked. One of the central themes of Laputa is the relationship between humanity and technology. Laputa itself, as a floating island outfitted with extraordinary technology, stands as a symbol of the heights of human achievement. Its capabilities, which include sophisticated robots, levitation stones, and powerful world-ending weapons, represent technological advancements far beyond the reach of the contemporary world depicted at the film's surface level. However, despite its marvels, Laputa is also a relic of the bygone era, abandoned and overrun by nature, which speaks to the transient nature of such achievements, the transcendence of the sublime. It serves as a powerful symbol of the natural world's ability to reclaim human-made structures. The imagery of mighty trees and vines enveloping the once great technological marvels of Laputa suggests a post-apocalyptic world where nature has survived or even thrived following human absence or decline. This portrayal resonates with real-world scenarios in places like the Chernobyl exclusion zone, where wildlife and flora have flourished after the disastrous human withdrawal, showing nature's resilience and capacity to heal itself. The contrasting views of the characters towards Laputa's technology further illuminate the thematic exploration of technology's ethical implications. Muska, the antagonist, views the technology as a means to gain power and dominate others. His intent to use Laputa's weapons to overthrow existing governments and establish a new order underlines a critical perspective on technology. It's a tool. Muska's approach is a stark representation of how technological advancements can be harnessed for destructive and oppressive ends. On the other hand, Pazu and Cheetah perceive Laputa differently. For them, it's not just a source of untold power, but a part of their heritage that connects them to a past marked by both brilliance and cautionary tales. Their awe and reverence for the island's capabilities are mixed with a profound sense of responsibility. They recognize the true value of Laputa's technology lies not in its potential for domination, but in the understanding and preservation of knowledge and history. The way the two ideologies interact with the sublimity surrounding them is a blatant demonstration of this. When Pazu jumps with the belief that the necklace will protect him, he falls flat on his face. Instead of expressing anger at the sublime, he blames himself for not understanding it, because he understands the power of nature and the weakness of man. It's this mentality that allows Sheeta to interact with the robots non-violently, because when humanity and nature work together, they can achieve things that alone are unachievable. Muska, however, often exhibits a sense of entitlement to Laputa's technology and sees any obstacles as annoyances impeding his rightful claim. For example, when the robots or the defensive mechanisms of Laputa activate against him, his reaction is not self-reflection or reconsideration of his methods. Instead, he escalates his aggression, viewing these responses as unjust hindrances rather than consequences of his own invasive actions. This contrast is key to understanding the moral landscapes Miyazaki paints regarding technology. Pazu and Sheeta engage with technology from a place of reverence and curiosity, whereas Muska views it as a mere tool for power, reflecting a broader critique of how society handles technological advances, whether as a means to improve human life or as a weapon against it. Whilst I obviously enjoy this dichotomy and the way that it's presented, it's certainly not helped by how shallow Muska is as an antagonist, like I previously described, and it leads to a lot of the commentary feeling rather heavy-handed. Although this work is lauded for its exploration of themes like environmentalism and the ethics of technology, the treatment of these themes can sometimes also appear simplistic or didactic. The contrast between the untouched natural beauty of Laputa and the pollutive industrial world below can certainly feel very on the nose, even if it is drawn beautifully. The same thing can be said about the resolution, where the technology of Laputa is ultimately seen as something that should be discarded or left behind, and this could reasonably be interpreted as a simplistic solution to a complex issue. The message that returning to a more primitive, less technologically reliant state is the path to harmony can be seen as an unrealistic or unnuanced approach to the problems posed by technological advancement and environmental degradation. Now, I'm obviously aware that the questions and commentary about technology and the natural world are aimed at children, because fundamentally this is a children's movie, but if that's the case, then we shouldn't act as though it's any more profound than it actually is. One thing that absolutely is to be admired is Miyazaki's meticulous attention to detail, which is evident in every aspect of the film, particularly in the design of the flying machines and the architecture of Laputa itself. These machines, from Pazu's small handcrafted aircraft to the massive, ornately decorated airships, are rendered with a level of detail that showcases a deep understanding and meticulous research even in the most boring aspects of mechanical design, and this imbues them with a sense of realism and functionality. The ornate yet plausible designs contribute to the film's steampunk aesthetic, blending elements of fantasy with the industrial technology. Laputa, Castle in the Sky, stands as a real achievement in the canon of children's animated films, intricately weaving visual and thematic complexities that captivate and challenge viewers. Director Hayao Miyazaki masterfully employs a blend of minimalistic dialogue, rich auditory landscapes, and deeply expressive animation to craft a narrative that extends beyond conventional storytelling, inviting audiences into a thoughtfully constructed world where the visual does more than merely support the spoken word. It drives the narrative. Through its explorations of themes such as the duality of technology and nature, the responsibilities of power, and the depths of human courage and connection, Laputa not only entertains but also imparts a profound commentary on human values and societal directions. The film's reliance on predictable tropes and straightforward character arcs do hold it back from being a feat of greatness, but nonetheless it's incredibly impressive, especially for a debut film. Moreover, Miyazaki's nuanced critique of technological advancement and environmental consciousness presents a timeless reflection on the choices facing modern society, packaged within the engaging framework of an adventure that is both visually stunning and emotionally stirring. The film's ending, which balances the bitter edge of sacrifice with a nuanced resolution, would have solidified Laputa as a film that respects its audience's intelligence and emotional capacity, but its insistence on accessibility whilst making it more digestible for a majority of audiences once again hold it back from being as challenging as it could have been. Ultimately, Laputa Castle in the Sky is a really pretty film with a good score and real passion behind it. I understand its place as a cherished piece of film history, and I certainly enjoy it for what it is. There's nothing here that is really that bad, and there are a lot of things that are really damn good. The next Ghibli film I watch will obviously be Grave of the Fireflies, which is not directed by Miyazaki. It's unclear how involved he was in its production, but I'm excited to watch it nonetheless. Hey everyone, that was the first of ideally many Ghibli films that will come out on this channel. I want to do a video on like each one of them as sort of a gateway to get into anime, because after the terrible reception that the Chainsaw Man one got, I'm just sort of curious to see what the scene has to offer in a way, but I'm not sure if it's going to be worth it, because this one is so difficult to get out, because Ghibli is relentless with their copyright legal stuff. So it's been a real difficulty just to get this one out. If it completely flops, I might just stop here, or make the others and just keep them on the back burner until I find a better way to put them out and have them be seen. But if people don't like this one, then I'm not really sure what the point is in doing the other one. So let me know what you thought. Just a side note, I am watching the subbed versions, but I'm using the dubbed versions in the analyses or the videos that I'm making, because I'm aware that people have these videos on in the background. They don't just sort of watch it all the time. So, and I'm assuming people don't who know Japanese aren't really watching my channel too much. So yeah, hopefully that's a decent choice. But other than that, that's all I have to say really. Hopefully you enjoyed. Much love and bye.